Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about DSLRs and what is there to look at and what should you look for when you're buying your next camera. Now with the DSLRs, unlike mirrorless, there's a few more things to look out for and make sure that you check before getting it. The first thing I always check, especially when I'm looking online at buying these, is the condition of the body. So I check all the photos. Places like MPB and WEX tend to do a very good job of taking photos of all sides of the camera, so you can see where any marks are and stuff. So I always check mainly for the corners, where the buttons are here, for the top, and any of the corners really is what you want to look at. If it's got excessive damage, marks, impact sort of issues with it there, I tend to not go for the camera, because it means it's been thrown around a bit, and because it's got a physical sensor in there, that could cause theoretical damage to those components inside. So that's the first thing that I tend to look at for on these. The second thing, if you're looking in person, this is obviously a lot easier, but it's to check the condition of the shutter and actually physically have a look at the shutter itself, make sure there's no marks on there, make sure there's no dust, fingerprints, anything that could cause any issues. Again, places like MPB especially are very good at putting if there's any dust on the sensor at all and if it affects image quality. So that's something you really want to look at. Along with that is the shutter count. So with anything like a pro body, so something like a 1D, you get a recommended shutter life of 250,000. Now I know firsthand that that can go way over this. I think this camera's got 200,000 on it now, my 1DX Mark II. My 1DX Mark I has now got 600,000 shutters on the original shutter. Same when you go down, so like the 5Ds have 150,000 shutters. So you want to, if possible, get as low a shutter count as possible, but again in conjunction with looking at the body. If the body looks like it's been thrown down some stairs and properly damaged, but it's only got 10,000 shutters, then something doesn't add up right. If it's got 600,000 shutters and the body's got wear on it from basically when you're rubbing your finger on the shutter button, you get wear around that shutter area, and you've got hot shoe wear where they've used a flash and everything, then that's kind of fair enough because you've got 600,000 shutters worth of use. But be aware, stuff like the 1DX is becoming increasingly hard to find spares for. So that's the next point you need to look out for, is can you get spares easily for that camera? So if it's high on the shutter count thing, so that the 1DX 600,000, they're harder and harder for people to service now and get new shutters for. 1DX Mark IIs are absolutely fine, but like 7D Mark 1s, can't really get spares for them very easily anymore. 7D Mark IIs though, you still can, 90Ds you can, etc. So that's another thing to look at. If it's a high shuttered camera you're looking at, can you get a replacement shutter easily without having to import one from another country? Because the last thing you want is your camera to die. You know you need a new shutter and you can't get one. So look at that. That's another very important part to look at. Another one as well that I tend to look at is what cards the cameras take. So if I'm pricing up buying a new camera like I did with the 1DX Mark II, I had loads and loads of compact flash cards. But I had none of the CFast cards that goes in there, so it takes two different cards. So I priced into me buying this, can I afford to get a nice CFast card? Because if I can't get a nice CFast card, then I'm going to have to run it on the compact flash only, which is going to slow down the camera, and I can't shoot redundant. Now, at the time of me buying it, I think that 128 gig compact flash was about £150 second hand. So I had to budget in, can I afford that extra £150 on there? And it's other things as well to budget into as well, like are you going to need a new spare battery? So, you know, you got to look at things like this. Luckily, my R3 and the 1DX Mark II both use the same battery. So if I am out with both cameras and in the extreme circumstance, which has happened, or I've run out of battery on the R3, I've taken the battery out of the 1DX Mark II and used that in the R3 just to finish the day shooting. But the things like that you've got to build into the costing of buying an upgraded camera. You're not just buying the camera, you've got to buy the ecosystem kind of that goes around it. Same as you're buying a mirrorless camera, you've only got EF lenses, you've got to budget in £150 for an adapter into your costing, and then stuff like that. So that's another really important thing to think of when you're buying a DSLR, is just to make sure you can afford the sort of the base ecosystem that goes around it. So say batteries and cards. If you can't afford any more batteries, you're going to be constantly potentially running out and losing half a day of photography if you're taking a lot of photos out in the wild. But they are overall the main sort of things that I personally look for when I'm looking at a DSLR, to make sure I get something I know that's going to last a long time. It's going to be fine for the needs that I have for it. Let's say this is looking pretty pristine. I have unfortunately dropped this once, but it is still working fine. You wouldn't really be able to tell. I was very lucky on how it dropped, that you can't really tell I have. But it is worth, if you're able to, going in and actually looking at the camera physically and making sure you're happy with the condition, especially that shutter, to make sure that there's no real marks on there. It's working as you expect it to, so give it a try. Some places, there's a place near me in Chelmsford that allows you to, they'll put a lens on the camera for you, put a card in there, and they'll let you shoot some photos in the shot to make sure you're happy with, if you're buying a lens, happy with how sharp the lens is, or you're buying a camera, happy you are with how the camera is physically working. So definitely have a look at those, check those out. If you have any questions at all of things that you want to know how to look for, or if I've missed something that you think is important, please put that down in the comments and I will get back to them. At the moment I'm up to date with all comments. I do also appreciate that the videos haven't been as constant on the Sundays anyway. I've obviously been in the shutter stuff on the Saturdays, but that's something just to keep the channel ticking over, so there is some content coming through. Obviously some of you don't like that content, but it is a bonus content. That the main channel content for this is always on a Sunday. If there's going to be a main channel video, it will be on a Sunday. Any other day, that is bonus content. So unboxing videos, there tends to be on a Friday if I do those. Any informational videos will tend to be on a Wednesday, and then so the shutter ones tend to be on Saturdays. So I will try and get more main channel content out on the Sundays. It's just sometimes life does get a little bit in the way, and you kind of have to take a step back, reevaluate. I've got a list of stuff I want to do videos on now, so hopefully that will mean I can put some content out a bit more regularly every Sunday for you guys to watch and enjoy. So if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe, comment and like as you always do, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks as you always. Cheers.